Are you ready to learn the 3 secrets to launching a successful podcast? Hi, I'm Bill, a recent client of the Podcast Mogul. If you've been thinking about starting a podcast but aren't sure where to begin, he's got you covered. He is hosting a free webinar where he will share the 3 secrets that can help you launch, grow, and monetize your podcast without any fancy equipment or technical headaches. Click the link in the show notes to save your spot now and let him help get your podcast off the ground.
Welcome to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Join the podcast mogul Phil Better as he interviews successful entrepreneurs that make their living in the digital world. Now, let's join your host, Phil Better, and his special guest today on Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast.
Welcome back to another amazing episode of Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm, of course, your host with the most, Phil Better, and today we have an incredibly inspiring guest who has mastered the art of entrepreneurial business ownership and a wealthy knowledge to share. Our guest today is a serial entrepreneur, author, and keynote speaker who has spent the last decade and a half in the trenches of entrepreneurial business ownership. He has successfully acquired, grown, and sold 4 different companies, something we all dream of, with the most recent venture yielding an impressive 10x return on invested capital. That's incredible. His expertise spans across industries, having worked with some top-tier brands. You may have heard of this one called Harley Davidson, the Milwaukee Bucks, John Deere, Tough Mudder, Masterlock, and a small little software company named Microsoft. His achievements has also been recognized in the Wall Street Journal and Cranes, just to name a few. But his impact doesn't stop at business. He's an adjunct professor, co-creator of the Entrepreneurial Through Acquisition course at the prestigious University of Chicago Booth School of Business, and a doctoral research focusing on the very subject he teaches. Can you get even better of a guest, my friends? He's trained future entrepreneur leaders at prestigious institutions like Dartmouth, UC Berkeley, and BYU. And he's an active contributor in the academic community on top of it. Like, come on, I got you a golden guest here. But outside of his professional life, our guest is an Eagle Scout, Ironman triathlete, and an outdoor enthusiast who thrives on adventure. He may also be an adrenaline junkie, ladies and gentlemen. But whether it's racing up the world's tallest staircase in Switzerland or embarking on the round-the-world trip, this guest is going to share his journey, the principles that have driven him to success, and how you can achieve autonomy through entrepreneurial business ownership. So get ready for a deep dive into the mind of a true business strategist and adventurer. My guest, Reid Tileston. Reid, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's an honor to be here, and thank you for the humbling introduction. I appreciate it.
I always try and get my guests to be humble on this show, because they haven't really achieved much if you think about it. But you have been, to be honest, I read your bio when it first crossed my desk for my VAs, and I was like, I want to talk to this guy. He preaches what he teaches. You're duals. You're the best, like a sword. You got both sides covered. You go out and do it, but then on the other side, you're teaching others to do it so that they can become better. That's like the best type of guest for this podcast.
Great. I'm super excited to be here. And I love the show that you put on. I love how the people you bring on here, you inspire individuals to go out there and live what I credibly believe is the American dream. And that is being a controlling business owner, which means that you have the majority upside on the venture that you own. It also means that you control the dynamics of it, so you don't work for someone else. And whether that's through bootstrapping something and building it from the ground up, or it's from acquiring something that already exists, there is no higher calling than being a business owner in 21st century America. So I'm just jazzed that there's people like you that are out there inspiring people and showing them the way for how to do that.
I love it. So we're going to get into the first question before we talk back and forth and just enjoy each other's company and, blow smoke up our bums, if you will. But what is the reason you decided to get into entrepreneurship? Because it's a very vast world and you touched on a lot of things. What was the first drive? What was the spark that created this engine that is the Reid Tileston?
If there's one common theme that we're going to discuss today about what the motivation to do things is one thing and one thing only, and it is people. it is relationships. People inspire me to do things. What inspired me to get into entrepreneurship, to ultimately be a business owner, is my little brother, Trevor.
Now, how did Trevor inspire you? Did he start off in your family as the first entrepreneur, business owner? Was that the reason why he inspired you?
Well, my brother, Trevor is the last in a very high ICU. 104 years old now. She is a very, very high Facebook. What it was a option because from the over Alberta, I seem to run out the over and a few hours license. You realize if it started fighting people to get over Fred on a stick, or guys, pulling guards, and get it, and we can buy almost things so that he's kind of here to get some guy to go around. So he's doing this, pretty over good, for shows. He was like great audience that is good to China. So it was things like that. It's very little applicants. There's only two things. I'm trying to right here. It's trying to feel the years on their homes. And how I get a license, I have them. I get paid this. We just free to who's one slow first. Please dad. Much people. And I say, wow, this is it. Pretty much on sales. And then I just went in, I had to buy a little bit of salmon. With the headquarters back in that Jordan's house. Did you actually do it? And then what I realized, all those this is which Trevor created a study in tax. Festive here. Then there's the entrepreneurship organization. But I just landed on this opportunity, applied my entrepreneurial mindset to it, and I was able to make some money in high school driving people to the airport. And one side of it too is the marginal over the latest and hey, for people that guys was 1999, 2000, I don't know how many cows it's hey, literally like 5, 6, 7 times the cost of that also it was the to for a store with no tinted windows. Try around the airport, it was absolutely amazing. So that's how I found the inspiration to be an entrepreneur. And that's how I really young age the doing ultimate be an entrepreneur, and I was just be an early works a role it. It's really fresh.
I love that. I love how you kind of skipped the regular path most entrepreneurs do, is build the business from the ground up, figure out who your customers are. And you were like, there's this business I can take to the next level. I'm going to do that. When you took over that business from your brother, right, and you organized it into your little business and upgraded it, when did you finally decide, hey, I'm going to go to the next step, I'm going to do another business? Like, what happened after, let's say, if that business is still going, congratulations. It's an amazing business that's still running, competing against Uber and the taxi and limo services. When did you transition out of that business, or did that business fail? Like, what happened after that business?
Yeah, is I was lucky enough to get into Alberta Riveting. So I was my underground there, and then graduated, and I was able to get a job, a street or a job, or a differences job in finance, and get to the show. Those are comfortable, I don't know who hold. So I had to play or get one out of how could we get a job for about a year, which by the way started for kids or right, worth you oh God, and then it's the house spread. So I was got 3 in college. And I like $95,000 in the bank. I was clear about it. Then I was out the inverse is good. Now I don't was play all equals just some of them to their home play other than that. So it's shit. That to the rush right outside of the issue is going to start a good play day out. Hey, I'm going back to the equals I was there with I Trevor and under associate. I was really traditional not really heavy early deal for in a franchise case. So buying out a franchise or like buying out like a franchise or what did you mean it was across holy franchises those I come across the concepts where they were low costs and actually and some of the franchise owners getting folks through there. So there's more about like how deals were that I was stretched. John, you know, hey, looking for kind of like that's where I wanted to talk to you more again for entrepreneurial. I didn't know about for me. So again, you know, I was the one that I had a year three for the garage in here, so it's low. Where I was, yeah, I was talking, you know, please, I should about it. Yeah. Yeah, so I was there to sort of regularly, I could see a lot of shots, rough, like you get in and so we shouted on, say, around radio, and says, I don't know how to how to grow in there. I was a really operating business, so we learn and so I go out a little bit of 30, I go slow, so we come to the valley, it's sort of sudden, or as well. If I do terribly well, I cranked for the young close that you know make a call down but after the latter so where I space is rated and down I need no experience to I agree it's also it's I need a wrong that situation and I never be able to have a very I wanted to kind of essentially already experience that as an hour because sort of the waters you can popular and here I came here or fake here off beforehand and he is well for a year and not for some young world that was very already successful real world household is our 0%. So really you say way is you know if you also read really I
I love that. I love the key was relationships can help you grow. Because I look at this podcast as nothing but a relationship builder because I get to talk with amazing entrepreneurs like yourself who are further along their journey, longer time in this world, and that have a better understanding of some of the pitfalls that regular entrepreneurs face. Yes, we're in different things, focusing on you're on franchise, but business ownership has the same thing. They all have the same problems, cash flow, overhead, employees. Like those are all similar, and I get to learn from you how you dealt with those things. And if ever I want to become a franchisee, I know exactly what I'm going to talk to you, Reid, because you've done it and you've done it successfully, and you understand purchasing those small businesses and making them bigger. What's one of the pitfalls of small business ownership when you come in to take over a business? Instead of building it from the ground up, you're the second person to touch this business after it's been like a baby or something. And I'm not sure, I think maybe your connection may be a bit loose. I'm getting a little interested in your by it. Set it as bottom. Particularly if you have noise cancellation on, that can sometimes.
Is that better?
That's much better.
Yeah, sometimes I didn't think it does it on StreamYard, otherwise I would have corrected for it. But I have a camera, and sometimes the camera microphone picks up and not the podcast microphone, so I had to change that. So we can go back for anything.
No, it was just near the end when I started talking that the interference started popping up. So you were good. You came in crystal clear. It was just when I decided to say, "Hey, Phil, we're not enjoying your conversation. Go back to Reid." But as I was saying, like, what are some of the smaller pitfalls that owning a franchise or buying a small business tends to pop up that may not be like visible, like like something that may be just a bit behind the scenes that you only get when you finally purchase that business?
Yeah, so I think it's critical to understand that the biggest pitfall is that people, when they go down that acquisition entrepreneur route, do not always appreciate that there is an unknown in the equation. that no matter how much diligence an individual does before they buy a business, diligence is actually the maximum score you can get is a 10, but the scale is actually out of 11. There's that impossible point at the end that it's a scientific law. You can't actually know everything about what it's like to own the business until you actually do. So if you're armed with that knowledge, right, that no one that I know of is perfect at diligence, and if you find that person, I want to talk to them. They're like one of my idols. That when people go into a small business, they're very well served to be all in and realize that they are walking through a minefield and they don't actually know where all of the mines are, and that, you're probably going to hit one. You might lose a limb, you might lose a finger, and just be ready for that. Know that that journey is par for the course, and prepare for it by, among other things, one, you mentioned earlier, cash management. Cash is king. Make sure that the liquidity position of the owner is solid, and then add 200% to that to make sure. So make sure there's enough liquidity. Make sure, because closing a business transaction is emotionally draining. The closing process is hard. Make sure that you have the capacity when you start operating to be able to deal with the inherent storm that's going to be coming. And, do what you have to do to have that mental capacity and that preparation ready, just knowing you're going to be in for a challenge those first 30, 60, 90, 100 days. Because you're not going to figure everything out during diligence. There's things that are going to come up that you just didn't expect to be the case, some of which you're just like, whoa, what's going on? But just knowing that situation you're walking into, and if there's one key takeaway, is to make sure that the liquidity position, the cash position is amply strong.
That's a huge, huge piece of advice. And I love that some of the people who are listening, who are going to go into this route of entrepreneurship, understand that that's a mine that they need to watch out for. I want to talk about your book because it is about grit and, going through this process of purchasing a business. You say it's emotionally draining. You need the grit to go through it, because right afterwards, you're going to hit that minefield of all these great problems that you didn't know about shows up. Specifically about your book, is there because it focuses on your insights from over 15 years of entrepreneurial experience, is there a specific story you would like to share where the grit played a pivotal part and role in overcoming some of the challenges that purchasing a business have?
Yeah, it's just, it's a mindset overall. And one story which I would tell, which actually got the idea for the title from, it was just from a team member. This team member was white collar, but and her name is Marilyn. Marilyn had a really difficult job. She had to manage accounts receivable and accounts payable between QuickBooks Online and a field service management software, and she had to do it every single week. Now, this might sound really easy, like, well, the numbers are just going to match up, right? But they don't, and it's a nightmare for a variety of reasons. Things don't work, connections don't work, every little number has to be correct. It's like a 10 out of 10 quagmire, and she has to do it every single week. But one Thursday night, after a terrible Thursday, and by the way, in this particular business, Fridays were just the worst day of the week, with emergency service calls, technician no-shows, customer complaints. Everything just always went wrong on a Friday for whatever reason. So it's Thursday night. This whole the whole balancing the books things is going wrong. Marilyn is staying late till 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night. And at one point I was helping her through this, and the errors that were happening were not her fault. They were errors caused by the service provider, which makes it even more frustrating. It's like, I'm perfect, but just messing it up. So terrible day. It's going to be an early morning the next day. And I'm just like, Marilyn, you really know how to get rid of it done, right? And then that's like, I'm like, oh, that scene sounds kind of cool. Then I was speaking of people, I was at a small business owner forum 2 days later, and I was telling that story. They were like, hey, grit it done. You should trademark that. And so I did, and that's how that came about. But the bottom line is that, we've talked about relationships with the older brother. The most fulfilling part of small business ownership and entrepreneurship for me is the people that I meet along the way. And oftentimes it's who I'll call the entrepreneurial employees. We talked about Marilyn, she is one. I don't own that business anymore. I sold it, but the relationship that I have with her, that I have with others, transcends even the time that I own the business. So the money's good, the autonomy's good. And I think that's a big reason that people go through the entrepreneurship route. But at the end of the day, the most fulfilling part for me has been the relationships that I've cultivated with people along the way.
I love that. Relationships build everything. The old saying, "It's not what you know, it's who you know," is king in this entrepreneurial adventure in this in the world today, because everybody can help you if you can build those great connections. I remember guests telling about how years later a former client of theirs comes back because of the great relationship they built, and help build the new business by connecting them with someone that could help them. So relationships are super important. And I want to know, in your relationship, building these relationships, because you're with your brand of entrepreneur, you're buying, acquiring, growing, and eventually exiting these businesses that could be babies, like children, for these business owners. How do you go about building that relationship with the previous owner or the person that you're going to be buying the business from, so that they feel that their business is being handed off to someone they can trust, that's going to take it to the next level that they were never able to do, or they aspired to but weren't able to meet because they didn't have the skills necessary?
Yeah, and it's critical to understand the individual that you're buying the business from. Because in the case of an individual business owner, their DNA, their character, their self is in every single part of the business. So as much as you want to diligence the industry, you want to diligence, the team members, diligence the competitors, understanding the owner is key. And different owners have different utility points. Some business sellers, they're financially motivated, straight up. They're going to go for the highest price and the most amount of cash down, and the highest perceived monetary value. That avatar exists 100%. The other avatars exist too. You have business owners that will credibly not want to sell to like a private equity firm or a strategic. They're going to want to sell it to another individual that's going to be an individual business owner. And you'll have some business owners that really want to keep it in the family or sell to the employees. And you'll have business owners that will go into the business selling process thinking one thing, and then have it completely change as time goes on. They're actually going to be malleable and can be convinced when they meet someone that, like dating that person. I didn't think I was going to like the, 38-year-old girl from Colorado Springs, but wow, I think she's like the right person to sell this to. Or I didn't think I was going to want to sell to a private equity firm, but you know what? I think that these private equity guys or gals really know what they're doing. They're going to be the best thing. So if there's one theme that I'd want to stress to individuals when you're doing quote unquote relationship building with business sellers, is to realize how malleable and how flexible and dynamic that process really is. And really, if I was to give one piece of advice, I would encourage people to do their best to show empathy for the business owner, because to your point, the business is their baby. Their emotions are tied up in this. And even though you have your utility points and you have things that you care about, if you can raise yourself up and look at the sale from their utility points, it's going to put you in a good position to come out on top in that situation.
I love that. That's a great piece of advice. That empathy part is so important, because you're dealing with a person, and yes, most of it is just numbers on a page, but those numbers mean something. So it sometimes means the world to the person on the other end, and having empathy to understand that can make the sale go much quicker. Yeah, you may not be offering the most, but you have that empathy, and they may connect with it, and they may choose you over, a larger number, because they feel that it's connected to their baby is being taken care of in a way that the other people may not be connecting. With Go ahead.
Oh, or the other, and it's interesting though. So we can get high and mighty and talk about like empathy and like connection, this and that. But sometimes business owners can be the exact opposite too. They could have a tough relationship with some of their key team members, and they can just be like, you know what? I just want the highest amount of money, and I just want to get out of here because 3 years ago this team member did this or this happened, and it's all across the board, right? So the key is, but to the point of empathy, understand what that story is and really think about it from their perspective. And that's how these deals can get won.
I love it. Because you do so much, like you're a triathlete, you're an adrenaline junkie, you're teaching, you're doing so much of buying businesses, you're running businesses. How do you prioritize finding time to invest in yourself? And what does that look like so that my audience can kind of see if they're going into this acquiring business life, what it looks like from someone who's already doing it?
The way that I invest in myself, which when I can hit this, it is the best. And by the way, to be clear, I work out every single day. I never miss, right? I engage in cold water immersion. I get up early. I meditate every single morning. I read, I'm a man of faith. I read scripture every single night. So I have like all these structured habits that exist in my life, to be clear about what I think on paper is investing in myself. But where I truly get the rejuvenation that's better than all of those things, even though I love all those things and they have so many great merits, is when I find the select people in my life that I can have a rejuvenating conversation with. So it could have been one of those terrible days when everything had gone wrong, or it could be a day where I'm just like feeling great about life. When I can have that quick conversation with one of my close friends, with an individual who's in a, CEO business owner group that I own or that I'm a part of, with a mentor, like the individual that advises me on my PhD work, I have maybe 6 or 8 people in life that I can have that rejuvenating conversation with. And when I leave those conversations, my life is leveled up. I feel connected. I feel congruent. I feel centered. And I feel like I can take on any challenge and also enjoy the journey while I'm doing it. So if I was to give one piece of advice, which is very hard to follow, it's not like, hey, go buy a cold plunge and, get up at 5 a.m. I definitely recommend doing that too, for a variety of reasons. It would be that, just be on the lookout for those, for those people, for those groups in your life that you can get that feeling from. And when you find them, utilize them, cultivate them, be thankful for them. So that's for me what I truly do to invest in myself.
I love it. Those are some great pieces. Yes, the cold plunge. You can start with a cold shower first. See how it goes. Jumping full bore into the cold plunge may be a lot for some people, but a colder shower than regular, you'll be right on the path. That helps.
Totally. We don't want to give anybody cardiac arrest.
That's right. Jumping straight into an ice water, joining the polar bear plunge right away. May not be for everybody, especially if you're in a place like Arizona. Could be a little difficult for you to get that coldness. I want to go into the future. I'm always interested in seeing where my guests are looking, where they're looking to invest in themselves for the future. If I snap my fingers and we're 10 years down the road, Reid, what is it like for you? Have you written more books? Obviously you're a PhD, you're now Dr. Reid Tileston. What are you doing? What is your life looking like, or what is your vision for 10 years down the road?
Yeah, and I'm super stoked that we're recording this conversation. And afterwards, when you send me this stuff and we have it all and everything like that, we'll go back and we'll reference it, right?
Yeah.
But, where I look at my life in 10 years, things that I want to accomplish between now and then are, one, to have a good, healthy mix of, teaching as a professor, which I currently do, investing in individuals that want to become business owners, serving on boards in that capacity as well. And then having having an incubator where you get people together that are either business owners or individuals that aspire to be business owners, empowering them to go down that path, which, despite what I think a lot of people say, it takes time to get there. And you can certainly go and just talk to an intermediary and find a business ASAP or buy into a franchise, but the journey takes time. And I think it's very beneficial to be surrounded by supportive people in that process. And then, I'm starting the endeavor of climbing the 7 summits right now. So I'd have to put that one on there as well. If all goes to plan, I could finish those by 2026, but you kind of have to plan that one's not going to work out. You have to go back again. So there's some uncertainty and risk around that. and want to swim the English Channel. So that's kind of lined up for 2027 tentatively. But again, life could happen. But by 50, we'll be able to get that stuff done. And yeah, that's the. And then of course, how do I do a lot of this stuff? I'm not married. I don't have kids, right? And that's a whole conversation. But we'll definitely prioritize that in the future as well. So by 50. Married, 3 kids, English Channel, 7 summits, professor, investor, board members, run a Gritted Done incubator in Utah, and go from there.
Oh, yeah, just little things you have on the plan of life. If I say you're crazy for wanting to accomplish those things, don't take it as a negative. They're just far outside my world of what I would want to try and accomplish. But hats off to you. I look forward to seeing and having you back on when you hit each one of those things in those 10 years. But we're going to go back now. We're going to go back to you as a 10-year-old, Reid. You're trying to drive me to the airport. I don't need to go to the airport, but your 10-year-old self wants to drive me to the airport. Very concerning. But what advice you would love to pass back to your 10-year-old self from where you are today?
What I would pass back to my 10-year-old self from where I are today, and I would just encourage, if I could snap my fingers and have everyone in the world, myself included, be able to just do this, lightning in a bottle. I'd tell my 10-year-old self that all the things, all the negative things that happened before the age of 10, right? That those are not your fault, right? They're not your fault at all. And, just forget them, let them go, focus on all the positive things and go from there. It's, and I see it show up in so many ways in my life. I see it show up in other people's lives, particularly those that I do vulnerability work with, how those formative things that happen in childhood have interesting consequences. They have good consequences for sure, but they also have bad ones. And I always observe in myself, and I see it in others, this gap between what I'll call the ideal self and the ought self, and how that gap, so much of it is driven by things that happened, in the context of your question, before the age of 10. So it's to be like, just forget all that stuff. It's gone. It's done. Focus on the intentional life that you congruently want to live right now. Don't focus on that stuff that happened before.
My God, it's heavy. And I have to agree with you. Like, now that I'm thinking about it, a lot of things do show up from your past, and trying to get over that and realize that the things that happened in the past happen. There's nothing you can change. You need to focus on going forward, making sure those things don't happen. Your advice is very clear, and I love it, and great piece of advice. What I'm going to do now, Rita, I'm going to jump off. I'm going to continue to digest this advice that you just laid out to 10-year-olds. I would love for you to let my audience know where they can connect with you, how they can get in touch with you, and if they're looking to purchase a business for the first time, how they can get you as a mentor. So the floor, sir, is yours.
Yeah. Listen, if you want to know everything that I know, I spent a year writing a book called Gritted Done. It's just my frameworks and personal stories of all the years I've been doing this. So you can get it at gritteddone.com, or you can go to Amazon. That's the best way to get to know me and engage me. I'm also active on LinkedIn. I post from time to time, so feel free to follow me there. But yeah, get Gritted Done at Amazon.com. Follow me on LinkedIn. Exciting times ahead.
Well, I am positive about that, and I'm looking forward to, I just put it in my Amazon book, so I can get a copy of that Gritted Done, so I can start learning from you, Reid. I want to thank you so much for being on the podcast. It was an amazing conversation, and I look forward to following your journey in the future.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
To my audience, make sure you check out the show notes down below to connect with Reid on his LinkedIn, and also get Gritted Done, so you can start getting it done as well. I want to thank you all for listening. Reid, again, thank you so much for being here. And as always, audience, remember to invest in yourself.
Thanks for tuning in. Now it's time to take the next step. When you're ready to dive deeper into how to launch, grow, and monetize your podcast, Phil's got something special for you. Join him for a free webinar where he'll reveal the 3 secrets that have helped countless entrepreneurs succeed in podcasting. Click the link in the show notes to save your spot, and let's turn your podcasting dreams into reality.